Hi there, it's Aule. Let me give you an overview of my main project, the medieval city. So, I decided to build a medieval city. It was supposed to be as realistic of a late medieval city as possible. Since I started the project about 4 years ago, I have learned more about the topic and noticed some historic inaccuracies. In the early Middle Ages, most cities basically looked like a bunch of villages crowded together and surrounded by a city wall. Even up to the late Middle Ages, the cities weren't as crowded as we like to imagine. This is because the inhabitants were largely self-catering. Inside larger cities in the Middle Ages, finding half-timbered houses would rather be the exception than the rule, as most citizens could afford houses made of stone, even with glass windows. These points I failed to accurately express. Worst of all, my city doesn't even have a city wall yet. All these things I might address if I get crazy enough to expand my current building area. So, enough about what I didn't do, let's look at what I did accomplish so far. Currently, the city is a monstrosity built on 7 times 3.5 32 by 32 base plates, weighing about 80 kilograms, consisting of an estimated 100,000 bricks. My city is a fictional city located along an also fictional river that should be comparable to the River Rhine. We used it as an inspiration for a D&D campaign, and the Dungeon Master labeled the river Schwarz and the city SCHWARZPORT, and I didn't complain, so let's go with that. The fictional evolution of SCHWARZPORT I imagine about as follows. On the bank of the Schwarz, where a stream, which is not yet named, flows into the Schwarz, was a large flat plain. On that plain there was a village, SCHWARZPORT, and the local landlord, a noble, built himself a castle, which initially consisted only of the old palace. But as the village began to thrive, mainly due to its important location along the Schwarz, which also allowed for first-class vineyards, and due to a very successful horse breeder, the noble's wealth increased. The castle was expanded by a second palace, a larger chapel, the entire outer ring containing a blacksmith, a watermill, additional stables and a bakehouse, and the Bergfried. There isn't really a good word for that structure in English. It's the largest tower of a castle, mainly used as a symbol of power and lookout. The villagers, however, disagreed with some of the landlord's policies and wanted to govern themselves. Seeing cities pop up left, right and center, they felt inspired and somehow managed to overthrow the landlord, capture and use the castle for their own goods, and now they are planning to build a city wall. This immediately attracted more merchants to move in. By now there is a very lively and active market. Also SCHWARZPORT developed to be a central point for horse trade. Keep in mind there may still be plenty historical inaccuracies remaining. The actual building process obviously was very different. I started off with a church, as I always wanted to build a big church as a child, but was always unable to do so due to my limited number of bricks. That took me quite a long time, and when it was complete, I committed to a rough layout for my city. This plan contained the exact path of the stream, the shore of the Schwarz, the spot for the church, the market square, the area for the castle, and ordinary houses. At this point in time, my plan was to use Blutbrick's Blaustein Castle as SCHWARZPORT's castle. The next step was to build all the terrain. I ordered plenty base plates, lerps, burbs, and 2x2 bricks in 10 and dark 10. Unfortunately, that rock structure turned out to not convince me and was replaced by the rock structure Martin used for the Blaustein Castle. So now I have an absurd amount of dark 10 and 10 lerps and burbs left over. Yeah. Whatever the case, my next project was to build the actual port. Even accounting for the little space available, I think I didn't do that good of a job. The way I built the port, it is hard to build a city wall, which is probably by far the most historically inaccurate thing about the entire city. Also, the building looks quite blocky, the woodwork is boring and I missed the opportunity to include a fancy crane. I like this particular perspective though. When I finish building the castle, I might give the port an entire rework. Next were the fisher huts, and I'm just very happy with them. After that, I was running many construction sites at the same time. The line of casual half-timbered houses in front, and everything around the market square, that is to say the horse merchant, the market hall, and 2 shopping stands. This took me a very long time. Next, I had some space left behind the horse merchant's house, where I decided to build a butcher and a tannery. Now there was only one thing left to build: the castle. By that point I realized I couldn't integrate Blaustein Castle. First of all, it was too wide and would have needed significant rework. Also, its geometry simply wouldn't make sense in this specific spot. But mainly, I cannot build an entire huge medieval diorama all by myself and then proceed to take someone else's castle design. So I began piling up the hill that the castle would eventually be built on. This took me an insane amount of work and bricks. Finally, I got started with the actual castle, which is way larger than you might think. Only the ground it's built on is about 1.5 times the size of Blaustein Castle's base, or about 4 times the Lego Lion Knight's castle's base. The castle is the only part of my entire mock that isn't completed. Feel free to check out my video about what I've got here so far. I will try to make detailed videos about all the other buildings as well, so if you want to see those, make sure to be subscribed and hit the bell. I hope you enjoyed this little overview about the project I've been working on for the past 4 years, and you are as excited as I am to see how it will eventually turn out. See ya!